and we are live with this week's edition of the All Gas No Break Sports Show. I am one of your co-hosts, Nicholas Pavona, joined alongside by Andrew Johnson. And Andrew, certainly had an interesting week one in college football. Kind of an upset if you want to ask a couple people. I mean, a lot of people in the country maybe saw this game, the game I'm talking about going the way it did go. We saw a couple of top 25 matchups in the college football world. And another upset that happened this past Monday, which was kind of a laugher in a lot of our view, because the team that lost in that fashion, we don't really like them at all. But overall, a very weird start to week number one, the college football season, and I'm sure it will get even weirder as the season goes on.
Week number one has not disappointed. We saw a lot of ranked matchups. We saw a lot of disappointment. And could I say the birth of some future powerhouses? Am I being too...
Maybe. No, maybe.
Is that too much of an ad hominem right now?
Well, considering the first game that we're going to talk about, it's possible. Very possible. It was one of the most talked about games throughout, not only here on the pod, but even throughout the entire country. I think they had about 6 or 7 million viewers for that entire game alone. And if you ask the Colorado football fan when the last time that happened, or if it ever happened, it's got to be multiple decades. Deion Sanders hype is for sure real right now. And after their first game of the season, the hype is certainly there. Colorado taking on TCU at TCU. They were going into this game 20-point underdogs. And we all said on the pod, there's a lot of talent on this Colorado team. And that's why we thought that it was going to be close. TCU also lost a lot of players from their past season, including guys like Max Duggan. And we thought this would be a close game. And I originally said there was going to be under. I really regret picking that because I should have known better, considering this was a Big 12 team facing a Pac-12 team. There's going to be no defense played whatsoever. And sure enough, there was barely any defense played in this game. Colorado goes on the road against TCU in Deion Sanders' head coaching debut for the Colorado Buffaloes. And they go on the road and pull off the upset, winning this one 45-42. I'm not sure where in the statistical categories you want to start, Andrew. There is a lot to unpack from this game in terms of guys on Colorado that went off in this one. Shedeur Sanders, Travis Hunter on both sides of the ball for the Buffaloes. Overall, a great game number one for Deion Sanders' tenure. And only the sky is certainly the limit now as the season goes on.
So what I want to talk about is their game on the ground, which was non-existent. TCU's game on the ground was just so much better. They could not, Colorado, like you said, no defense was really being played, but they could not stop the run for anything.
Right.
They were really good in the backfield. I'm going to mention Travis Hunter, maybe a future Heisman winner. I think, right now, if he continues to play like he played, he's the best player in college football.
Well, look what he did in this game. You talk about 11 receptions for 119 yards and could have easily had a touchdown if not for, I believe he
bobbled it.
He bobbled it, and they called PI on the play anyway. So it led to a touchdown to begin with. But not only that, offensively, look at what he did defensively in this game. He had a huge interception for Colorado, backed into their own territory in the red zone. And we all thought, watching the game, it was a sure-in touchdown for TCU. Hunter just read the route perfectly, was able to dive in front of it. Right. He dove
two times at the goal line. Not him particularly, but twice at the goal line it happened.
Right. There was an interception earlier in the game too as well. And that's really the difference maker of this entire game for TCU. Two really tough interceptions at the inside the red zone cost them this game at the end of the day. And Hunter's a big reason for that as well. He played a bunch of snaps, over 100. I'm trying to think of the number. Maybe 130 snaps, maybe over that in this entire game.
He halfway, I think towards the end of the third quarter, he was at 112. And to my knowledge, He played the entire fourth quarter as well. So definitely over 120, probably closer to 130.
Yeah, he deserves anything that goes his way after this game. I mean, an unbelievable performance. I believe his Heisman odds went from 100-1 to 40-1 after this game. If he continues to play games like this, you might be right. He really has a good outside chance of maybe winning the Heisman Trophy this season, just because of how much of a dual threat he could be for this Colorado team.
Listen, I know quarterbacks traditionally win the Heisman. If there's ever a case for a non-quarterback to win it, it's going to be this year. Right. God willing, he's going to stay healthy. Colorado will meet their expectations. And listen, if Colorado even exceeds expectations. Let's say they win 8 or 9 games. They get into I don't want to say New York Six Bowl,
I
but
think their
one of
over
the
under
more.
was 3.5 this year, too, which
I
is
mean, yeah,
wild.
it's. I mean, the chains are moved. The chains are moving for Colorado. Like
Right.
you're moving the goalposts at this point. I had high expectations. I said Dion would get him in the top 25. At some point in the season, I didn't know when. I knew he would do it though.
Didn't think it'd be this early, I can tell you
I
that.
didn't think. Yeah, I didn't think it'd be this early. I figured maybe around week 4, week 5, they sneak into it. But to get it right off the get go, awesome start to the season for him. And yeah, Travis Hunter, I think is gonna. If I could change my Heisman pick, I would put him as a dark horse right now.
And listen, another guy that could be a dark horse could be his quarterback, Shador Sanders. And how about the game he played against TCU? Going 38 to 47 for 510 yards, 4 touchdown passes in this one. He broke the school record for most passing yards, I believe, in an opener for Colorado's history. A great start for him as well. Dion has to be loving what he brings to the table. Him and Hunter certainly is a great combination for that offensive front in Colorado. And that's something that teams, as the season goes on, they're going to have to look forward to. We also look at Dylan Edwards from this Colorado team. He had 5 catches for 135 yards and 3 touchdowns. There was 4 Colorado wide receivers that had 100 yards in this game. So there are a lot of playmakers on this team that Dion has brought in. And if you're a team like Nebraska who's got to play Colorado this coming weekend, you have a lot of players you have to scout for, try to stop them, and try to go on the road to pull off the upset.
I also love the chaos on Colorado since it's a completely new roster, and the NCAA pretty much said, "Oh, you can take any number you want." You have chaos, like guys like number 43 is a cornerback. Like that's hilarious to me. Even it's just the little things about this team make it great.
Yeah, I think they kept, if I'm not mistaken, either 1 or 2 players from last season's
That
team.
cornerback was the one player, by the way.
Right, and he had the interception, or the safety did. I forget off the top of my head, but one
He
of
had
them
the
had
interception.
he had a huge interception early in the first quarter of this game, and like I said, not much more can be said. Overall, great start to Dion's tenure at Colorado. Couldn't have asked for anything better going as the game went on. Their offense looked really good. Defense did give up a lot of points. There is some things to be fixed upon, but if Travis Hunter can lead that defensive front and that secondary, Colorado could be a presence in the Big 12 because remember, they're going to be moving back to the Big 12, I believe, next season. So TCU is going to see a lot more matchups against this Colorado team for the next couple of years.
Yeah, and I think you summed it up best. Colorado looks like they have sky high expectations now. Could be a matchup going forward to look forward. Maybe the start of some new rivals, TCU and Colorado. Just seeing how they kind of mushed their season this early. Like TCU season is probably done.
Right. Again, they had the Cinderella story last year, getting all the way to the national championship game. Um, it's tough. You lose a lot of good players from that team last year, and it's never going to be the same way as you hope. You look at some of the other teams that lost a lot of players in week 1. They all had a tough time going. Georgia had their struggles against in the first half against, I believe, UT Martin. Alabama had some struggles offensively early on in their game. Ohio State struggled offensively. TCU, to their credit, still played a really good, strong offensive game. Problem was their defense just was not there for them in this week 1 matchup. But like we said, there's a lot of good talent on this Colorado team. So to their credit, they did the best they could. It just was not enough at the end of the day.
Yeah, so let's go into our next game, next big game, college game day. UNC defeating South Carolina. UNC was at home. Back and forth game the first half, and then they just kind of took off with it in the
Right.
second half.
This was a neutral site game, I believe, but it was technically a UNC game if you look about it, because I believe it was in
It was in North Carolina,
it was at
but the
the it
way
was in
they
the Panthers
described it,
Stadium.
it was in North Carolina, but the drive to campus was shorter for South Carolina.
Right. Right.
So that's the way. I guess it's a true neutral game because it's a shorter distance from Chapel Hill. I'm sorry, it's a longer distance from Chapel Hill, but it's still in the state of North Carolina. I don't
Right.
know, but uh, great game. Drake May looked fantastic. He's going to miss his number 1 wide receiver now going forward. So I think that's a storyline we have to take a look at.
Right.
Spencer Rattler, I want him to be good.
Rattler, you look at the stats.
He was
Rattler
good.
he had the yardage. They just couldn't get it into the end zone, and that was the
Yeah, and that's not
problem for South
necessarily his.
Carolina on the day.
Yeah, that's not necessarily his fault too. If he can sling the football like he did, he had 353 yards. He just couldn't find the end zone. He was accurate, It's just his receivers couldn't get open when it mattered the most, and there's only so much he can do. He can't catch the football himself.
Right, and you look at Drake May's stats. He did throw 2 touchdowns. Also, did throw 2 interceptions in this game. So obviously, there's still stuff he would like to fix upon because he's projected to be the second best quarterback coming up in this upcoming NFL draft behind Caleb Williams. If Caleb Williams decides to go out, because there are rumors he might not enter the draft this year. I'd be very stunned if he didn't. But
Well,
you go ahead.
well, here's the thing with the new NIL deals. I think it's more possible each day that he stays in, but because it's he can get paid so much money by just staying in college, and if his draft stock is okay but not great, if he's getting paid, 7 figures with an NIL deal, obviously if it's all speculation, why would you leave?
Well, also think about it. You could control your destiny of where you want to go because it looks like the Cardinals in the NFL are probably going to have the number one pick this upcoming year, and that might lead to someone not wanting to go play in the NFL at the current moment just because you're going to be playing for a really bad team, and there's no sign of any great things happening for them the next couple of years. So the NIL money, you're absolutely right, could persuade these guys to go back to college. Some might be persuaded, some might not. Just say, you know what, I'm going to the NFL. I'm still going to make a good amount of money either way. So
Yeah, no, you summed it up well there, and I don't think there's really much to talk about. South Carolina, North Carolina, North Carolina's season stays alive, and they could be contending for an ACC championship game.
right,
South Carolina, you've got a long, long road ahead of you. You look good towards the end of the last season. It's a small bump in the road. Go back home, win a couple games, get your confidence back, and let your season continue on. I don't think they're
well,
contending for a championship this year, but you
right.
still can contend for a New York Six Bowl.
I'll say this: they have Georgia coming up in a couple weeks, so that's certainly penciled in on their calendar. There's definitely a chance for this team to get back in the second half of the season. A rough start to week one, but if you're able to beat some really good teams down the stretch, South Carolina could be in that conversation in the SEC East to make the SEC championship game. So there's still a shot for them. And for the Tar Heels, we saw one big team in the ACC already go down. We'll mention that a little bit later on. We saw another team had a really impressive win as well. So North Carolina, it looks like potentially could be in a 2-team race to win the ACC championship this year. So very good start for the Tar Heels nonetheless.
Okay, and I think that's all we have for the UNC and South Carolina game. And let's talk about the Big 12 winner, as per Grayson Jamarino, Texas Tech. How'd they do this week, Nick?
To quickly sum it up, they lost to Wyoming in, I believe, triple overtime.
Double overtime. The
Double
Cowboys.
overtime, close enough.
Double overtime. I mean, it's embarrassing. Listen,
Ugh.
listen. Texas Tech is supposed to be a powerhouse Big 12 team. They're supposed to be the second best conference in football. And if you have your core members, can I call them a core member? I think that's fair, right?
They've been there for a while, yeah.
I'll call them a core member. One of their core members losing to a Mountain West team, future Pac 12 team, probably in Wyoming.
Most likely, yeah.
Listen, this is all I'm going to say is if Wyoming can go and beat Texas Tech, listen, if the bottom of the Big 12 is that bad, I'll be real with you because Wyoming's not the best Mountain West team.
No.
I don't think so by far. I think there's better teams. So
I think San Diego State is the best mountain.
I would say San Diego State or Fresno State.
I wish it was Boise. I
wish it was Boise. Listen, Boise will be great because their legacy program, they'll be back. But let's say they're the fourth best team or third best team in that conference.
Right.
Listen, I think the Pac-12 might be okay if Oregon State stays strong.
Right.
So they get 4 guys like that, like Wyoming. Listen, ironically, that might ride their ticket into the conference if it stays around.
Yeah, I mean, there's not much more to say really much about this game. This was more, embarrassing for not only Texas Tech, but just for Grayson because he picked them. So the Mushing Hour definitely stays undefeated nonetheless. And there's still more mushing going on as we'll get a little bit later on. Another game that we'll quickly summarize and pretty much was not even a fight realistically from West Virginia in this game against Penn State. Was kind of hoping Grayson would be on the show because I wanted to hear his comments about this game. Fortunately, he had some conflicting schedule issues, so he is not here with us today. Do have his picks for later on in week number 2. And yeah, West Virginia just looked really bad offensively in this game against Penn State. Drew Aller for the Nittany Lions looked really good in his first college start, had 325 yards and 3 passing touchdowns. And yeah, A real, I don't even know, just a
And
really bad start for West
I
Virginia.
was sweating this game because the over wasn't going to hit. And then by
Right.
some miracle, a very nice man named James Franklin saw that the over was 49 and a half. And so he was
How
at 49.
and how
And
about
he
not only that, I didn't mean to cut you off, but not only did they get the over, they got they covered at the end
covered
of the game
too.
too. Yeah.
So if you had Penn State to cover in the over and you were a fan of Penn State this weekend, man, you were having a great time.
I
Anyone else
was.
having the opposite? Oof, yeah. I mean, I took the over too. James Franklin, people give him a lot of crap, but hey, he was aware
It's
of the situation and he did it. So
yeah.
hats off to you. Even though you're not supposed to even acknowledge it. So you didn't do this and this didn't happen.
Right. Yeah, like I said, not much to really talk about that game. Penn State gets a good start to the season. West Virginia could be in for a very another long season coming up right now. They're potentially looking at a new head coach. I know Grayson certainly wants it to happen sooner rather than later. So Neil Brown could be on the hot seat very, very soon. Really best start for the
And
Mountaineers.
Dana Holgerson laughs more every day.
I'm sure he doesn't miss him, but you're not wrong. But he's not the only person that had some mushing effects this week, as I will take credit. I was very high on LSU Johnson winning the SEC, and man, oh man, did they have a really bad second half against Florida State in their game on Sunday against the Seminoles. Uh, it was tied at half. It was oh no, I'm sorry. LSU was winning at the half, 17-14. Then the second half happened. LSU gets outscored in that second half 31-7. Really bad performance from the Tigers in that second half of the game. And a big time statement for Florida State winning this one in the fashion that they did. You know, a lot of people have them picked to win the ACC. I know you picked them to win the conference as a whole. And we've talked about it. There's a lot of expectations for the Seminoles going into the season, and they really lived up to those expectations in week number one with a very dominating win over LSU. Overall, what did you like from Florida State in this game that impressed you the most?
Man, I love how Florida State stayed with the pressure every single. They went punch for punch in that first half, and Florida State did not let up at all. LSU, I'm not going to say that they were underprepared, but I will say that they did get out coached in the second half.
Absolutely.
They got out coached in the second half, and you know what? This sometimes it happens, and there's no shame in it. Uh, but hey, listen, they played a great game in the first half, and just the adjustments at halftime, that was the difference here. Because Florida State, once they took off, it wasn't even close. They got a garbage time touchdown. This game should have been 45-17.
Right.
This on paper, Florida's fourth quarter alone should have outscored LSU. Now, what does that mean for LSU going forward? SEC title game. I
They,
mean,
it's
they still
still
have a way
it's
in.
still definitely possible.
They definitely still have a way in. I know this hurts, but if Florida State is like that 10 or 11 win team that wins the ACC and LSU somehow finds themselves in the title game, they could still make the college football playoffs. It's just, you got one mulligan a season. You already used it in week one. So you got to
Well,
be perfect from here on out.
right, and that's perfectly summed up. I think now you look at the schedule; they have obviously a game at Ole Miss and Alabama. Those are two tough road games for them on the season, and they're probably going to have to win out unless some crazy stuff happens this upcoming season. I really can't see a two-loss team getting into the playoff, but it wouldn't be the first time a two-loss team has been close to getting into the playoff. So
Uh,
there's definitely a chance for the Tigers, but a really bad start. They really could have cemented themselves early on as a contender in the SEC, but they just get beaten down by the Seminoles. And credit to Jordan Travis, the quarterback from Florida State. He had a huge game for the Seminoles in this one, throwing for 342 and 4 touchdowns, leading the Seminoles to that big win and giving them some momentum as they try to win the ACC this year.
Come on, you're stealing my thunder. I was about to just talk about Jordan Travis. Started his career at,
Apologies.
yeah, you're good. Started his career at Louisville. Uh, Played a couple games, transferred to Florida State. He had to, man, he's been, because this COVID year and this red shirt stuff is getting me messed up because this man's going to be 24 in the spring now, and he's playing college football. Former Cheez-It Bowl
He'll be Stetson
MVP.
Bennett soon.
Listen, he's still older than younger. He's still way younger than Stetson Bennett by I think about a year and a half.
Yeah,
Like I think Stetson Bennett was 25 in the national
I
championship
believe
game.
so. Yeah, I think he's
So
25, 26
if
now.
if he makes it there, he'll be 23. So he's still a lot younger, but Man, this COVID still not this these COVID rules are really messing me up because this man should have graduated 2 years ago.
Hey,
But
but
hey, now he has a chance to show out and
yeah,
maybe turn out to be a late round draft pick this year. Depends how he does. Listen,
maybe.
342 yards, 4 touchdowns. I know he had a pick. Uh, Decent game on the ground too. He got a rushing touchdown and about 40 yards on the ground in 7 attempts. So he could do it. He could do it all. Let's see how he does against. I would say better competition, but I think LSU is going to be their biggest test for the next couple of weeks.
I would say schedule wise, I'll look at Florida State's schedule right now, but I think that was by far going to be their toughest game of the season up to this point. Obviously, they're going to probably have to play Clem. They definitely will play Clemson at some point on the season.
This is it for them, to
Um,
be honest. I'm looking at it. They're going to play Clemson. They're going to play Duke if they're
Duke
even
is
going to be
yeah,
good. The rest of it: Southern Mississippi, BC, Virginia Tech, Cuse. No offense, Nick. Wake
without one
Forest, Pitt, Miami, North Alabama, and then they play Florida. Hey, I
Florida
think
could be
Florida at the end
tricky.
of the year might be very. Yeah, I know they lost this week, but Florida by the end of the year could be a monster.
Yeah, it's always tough to go into the swamp and win. So that's not going to be an easy game for Florida State. But I could see them winning just because Florida still lost a lot of talent from last year. But yeah, I think perfectly summed up. Florida State, that's a really good start to their season. I think if they're able to get past the rest of their schedule, we could be talking about Florida State being in the college football playoff this season,
Hey,
and
listen,
for good
I
reason.
said the winner of the ACC would be there.
You did,
Well, maybe not the winner of the ACC, but I think Florida State will definitely win the ACC.
right. Yeah, look at your Final Four right now. You did not have them there, but they could make a good, strong case to be in there. It's very, very possible for the
I
Seminoles
think
to get
Texas
there.
was my last team in, right?
I believe so. Yes.
So yeah, I had the Big 12 winner over the ACC winner.
Right. You want the Texas A&M Texas matchup. That's why.
Yes, the dream, but it's probably not going to happen. But
Probably not. Well, we'll have to see that this upcoming week. Who knows? Maybe we see something crazy happen on Saturday night. We'll talk about that game in a little bit. But the final game of the week was on Monday. It was an ACC matchup, and I am very proud of my mushing for this one because I had picked Clemson to win the ACC, and boy, oh boy, Andrew, did they go on the road into Duke and really stink it up against the Blue Devils. Horrible offensive showing from them. Cade Klubnik really did not look good in this game. He had 16 incompletions and an interception. Clemson was able to run the football, but the turning point in this game is when they got into the goal line, I believe down a score, and they fumbled it in the goal line, and that's when Duke took over, was able to go down the field and score a touchdown to put them up 2 possessions to win this game. Really bad showing from the Clemson Tigers. I believe they dropped down to 25 now in the
that is
AP
correct.
poll.
They should have dropped lower.
Probably should have been dropped out
They
to
only
begin
didn't
with.
drop out because two people submitted the same exact poll rankings they had before. They had LSU at 5 in their rankings and um, Clemson at 9 in both their points. So that kept them alive this week.
Right. And you know what? Credit to Duke. We saw a lot of good things from Duke last season going into the offseason, and there was a lot of optimism for the Blue Devils. A lot of people had hope that maybe they could keep this game close against Clemson. Not only did they keep it close, they embarrassed Clemson in this game, winning by a final of 28-7. Riley Leonard for the Blue Devils had a pretty solid game. Throwing wise, he was on and off, but he was able to run the ball effectively. 8 carries for 98 yards and a touchdown. When you can get that from your starting quarterback, that's very good. I know he looks up to Daniel Jones as a mentor for him, and obviously for me personally, I like to see stuff like that happening. But great win for Duke. Their football program is obviously not of the standard as their basketball program, but this is certainly a win that gets you on the map. They get into the top 25 poll now with the win, and who knows? Maybe if things go right, Duke could be the sleeper team in the ACC this year.
That is a really, really weird statement. Think
I
about it
know,
though. Like we're talking college basketball. One of my favorite sports.
right?
Kansas, UNC, Kentucky, Duke.
UConn, Duke, yeah, all
You
those like power, like
UConn didn't win, but all those schools did win the previous ones.
right.
So is this March, or is this
Easy,
September?
easy roll, Steve. It's not. There's no. This is March yet. It's not there yet.
Oh, not yet. I gotta wait another 6 months.
You
Dang.
gotta. Unfortunately, you're gonna have to wait a couple more months.
Yeah, but no, Duke looked really good, which is strange to say. But
I know
shout out to Brian Schmidt. He said this to me, and it makes a lot of sense. Duke's been turning it around the last couple of years.
they have.
I know they had the Daniel Jones years, like what, 6 years ago now.
It seems it's been a while, yeah.
It's been a
But
while, but the last couple of years, Brian made a good point. They went 9-4 last year. They had a couple down years where they went 3-9, 2-9, 5-7, 8-5, 7-6. So over the last 7 years, for a school that is a basketball school, and then your state, you're probably the third or fourth best football program in your state, not even your region.
right.
Those are okay results. I mean, listen, they got rid of it. They have a brand new head coach. As of last year, they got a bowl win. They're ranked right now, so the sky's the limit right now.
Right, and I listen, when I say they have a sleeper shot, it's certainly going to be a dog hill battle for Duke to even have a chance. Some of their you look at the schedule, Johnson. They have to play Notre Dame at home. They're at Florida State and they're at North Carolina. So it's not going to be easy if Duke's going to have a chance. But listen, the Blue Devils, they'll take the win. They weren't even expecting to be in this conversation right now of where maybe they're a sleeper, maybe they're not. But with the way the ACC is, who knows? Remember, the top two teams get into the championship game. So all Duke has to do is just finish in the top two, and they'll have a logistic shot of being an ACC champion this year.
So here's the thing: they have a win over Clemson, right?
Yep.
They play Lafayette, Northwestern, Connecticut. Can we pencil them in going 4-0?
I mean, you would hope after
You would
this.
hope, right? After
You
this,
would.
you hope.
Lafayette, I feel like could be. I don't know why. There's always something about Lafayette. Oh wait, I'm thinking of the wrong team. Sorry. Never mind. Never mind. Nope.
No, I don't think these are Raging Cajuns.
No, I just thought about it. Yep, it's not the Raging Cajuns.
No.
Okay,
So
completely retract that from the record. Duke should win these next three games, but
put them at 4-0.
they have to be 4-0 going against Notre Dame.
So I think they lose versus Notre Dame, puts them at 4-1.
Right.
I think they beat North Carolina State 5-1. They lose Florida State
I think
5-2.
I honestly I don't see it happening just because I also could see them losing to Louisville. Louisville is not a bad team this year, also in the ACC, and then they have to go to North Carolina, and that won't be easy either. But listen, maybe Duke could prove us wrong if they play how they did defensively in this game against Clemson, and Leonard is able to use his dual threat ability. That's why I say maybe it's a long shot, but you never know with college
Well,
football.
I don't think they're gonna win it. But here's the thing: I don't think they're gonna. They have
I don't think
12
so either.
regular season games, right? And I think can they kill 9-3?
Uh I'd say their
I think that's
ceiling.
attainable.
I would say that's their ceiling right now, like
Yes, I
nine
would agree.
wins. I would agree with that. I know it's
So I think
obviously easy to say that after they won their first game, but
oh yeah,
I think
obviously.
the
I think the
ceiling would
ceiling
be
is 9 wins. So if their ceiling is 9 wins, and then if they win a bowl game, that would be
Oh, it's
Duke's second double-digit win season in the entire history of that program. In
yeah,
102
exactly.
years of Duke football, this would be their second double-digit win
That's
season.
wild. That's wild, but that's
So they have a chance to
reality
change
we live
history.
in.
I realize it is week one. This may be an overreaction, but
Probably will
they
be.
got to run with it now. You got to run with it now.
Knowing our luck, Lafayette will be the team that knocks them off
Sorry,
next
Duke.
week.
Not really.
Because we are getting close to the mushing hour, Andrew, and we don't know what happens when we get into the mushing hour as itself. But yeah, overall, week one definitely lived up to the hype. We'll have to see if week two can live up to that hype, though, as it's time for the mushing hour now here on the All Gas No Breaks Sports Show. And once again, Andrew, I would love for you to tell our fine audience, what does the mushing hour entail?
So the mushing hour, and it's a play on kind of Scott Hansen's Red Zone, absolute
I'm
legend.
so ready for Sunday.
I am too. I can't wait. Sunday.
7 hours of commercial-free football.
Absolutely. The witching hour of when winners become losers and losers become winners just because on their own pure ambition and will. The mushing hour is when losers become winners and winners become losers here.
Yep.
Because we mush them. For example, we had our first full mush of the season when we all took LSU either money line or for points, favorite to win, and we mushed them. So that is the beauty of the mushing hour. So when we all of us kind of align, it's almost a guaranteed loss. Almost 90% of the time. So if all three of us are thinking the same thing, pray for your team. I pray for your team.
Yep.
But let's go into it.
I have a bad feeling, Andrew. There's gonna be a lot of that this week because I won't lie. There are some tough games in the schedule this week in terms of they don't really on paper look as good as we saw the week one matchups, but you never know when stuff like that happens. You usually tend to have a really solid week in college football. So we'll have to see how this all entails. But we'll start it off with the first game. And after the hype we talked about in the first game with TCU and Colorado, now Colorado is in the AP poll. They're ranked number 23, and they're home this week for their first game with Deion Sanders as their head coach. They host Matt Rule in Nebraska. Nebraska is coming off that last second field goal loss to Minnesota. They would like to get their first win of the season. The current line for this game, Colorado is a 3-point home favorite, and the over/under 58.5 points. Andrew, what do you think about this game?
Well, I'm taking Colorado with the points. Give me Colorado -3.
Okay,
I like what they did on the road last season. Oh, jeez, last
last
week.
week, yeah.
I know they're home now. That crowd's gonna be ravenous. I'm surprised they're only 3-point favorites at home. A little surprising to me, but uh, listen, nothing against Nebraska. I love that school. I like the fan base. They're passionate, even though they get their shit kicked in each year. Kind of like my Johnnies for basketball. Uh, Never really loyal fan base. If they deserve wins, if there's any fan base out there that deserves any winning, it's definitely Nebraska fans. But I don't think it's their week. Give me Colorado -3.
Well, thinking about how this game has unfolded at the beginning of the season, I believe Nebraska was maybe a touchdown favorite on the road. Then the Colorado Week 1 game happened. Then Colorado and Nebraska was pretty much a pick 'em, and now Colorado's a 3-point favorite. And
The money's coming in on Coach Prime.
I just can't see a scenario in which Nebraska wins this game after what Colorado did in Week 1. Not only do I like Colorado -3, Andrew, I love the over because you have a Pac-12 team that scores a lot in Colorado. I think they're going to score a lot of points again this week. I don't think Nebraska is going to be able to contain or stop. Honestly, I could see a scenario in which Colorado scores all the points for me. That's how bad I think this could be. I really think Colorado is going to go out there and absolutely embarrass them.
The
But
lowest tickets for this game, by the way, price rise $302 to get in the building.
I think I saw a stat in which the cheapest ticket for that game is more expensive than the cheapest ticket for as of this recording of tonight's opening day matchup with the Lions and the Chiefs.
Really?
I could have swore I saw that this
I
week.
believe it.
That's how big this is right now for this program, and it's going to probably be the most the biggest game in Colorado football history since probably their last national championship, which I believe was early 1990s.
Well,
So
every game is going to be their biggest game until they lose.
right, exactly. So I will take Colorado with the -3 spread, and I'll take the over. Grayson also is going to take the Colorado -3. So
We have a mushing.
there's definitely a mushing possibility in this game. So bettors beware when it comes down to it, but I think we should be fine. Famous last words, though.
Yep. And let's go into the next game. We have Utah number 12 Utah on the road. I was about to read the spread. Utah
Yep.
on the road going to Baylor. Baylor, the embarrassment of the Big 12.
One of the
Utah,
embarrassments.
one of the embarrassments. My bad.
Hey, what an embarrassing week for them. Go
I
ahead.
know. What a bad conference. Shout out sheep. Utah -7.5 point favorites on the road. Over under slated at 47.5. Who are you taking?
I've got Utah spread and the over. Baylor gave up 42 points to Texas State. That's all I need to say about this game. Utah will score points against this team. They are a good offensive team in the Pac-12, and they're facing a Big 12 team. Whenever you have a matchup between these two conferences, points will be scored. I think that alone will give you. I think Utah's going to blow them out personally. And Grayson's also with me in the sense, but he is taking an alternate spread. He's got Utah -10 in this game and is also taking the over.
Well, we have a motion because I'm also taking the over. You took the words right out of my mouth. 42 points to Texas. Not even one of the good. I mean, all the teams in Texas are good.
Yeah, it's not a good team.
It's not Texas.
No
it's not
disrespect,
Texas. It's not
but
Texas A&M. It's not Texas. Even Texas Tech or
not,
Texas Christian.
Not even
It's
SMU.
just Texas State. Yeah, it's Texas State. A lot of good teams down there, and that's not one of the premier ones. But hey, they beat a Big 12
Shout
team.
out
So
to
what
the
do we
Sun
know?
Belt.
Yeah, it's a shout out to. I love to see the underdog win. So, but give me Pac-12 over here. Give me Utah. The Betrayers of the Pac-12. They red wedding the Pac-12.
The Red Wedding. That's a great. I like that.
But give me the over, and we have a mushing because we all took the over. So fade us and take the under.
The under could be the play, but I mean, it's tough to take an under in a Big 12 game. For me personally, I know that from last week with the
Oh, me
TCU
too.
Colorado game.
That's why I'm not taking it. So the next game we have here is number 10 Notre Dame on the road going to North Carolina State. Notre Dame on the road, 7.5 point favorites. 51.5 is the set over under. And do we have another mush here?
So I don't think we are because Grayson is actually going to be taking NC State plus 7.5. Now I don't think he's
They're
thinking.
home, so
I don't think he's thinking that they're going to win this game, but I think his mindset is that Notre Dame maybe will win at like a last second field goal or something like that. For me personally, I don't see it happening. I think Notre Dame's got obviously on paper has the better team. These two teams haven't played since 2017, also, so it's been a while since the last time they've played. And at the end of the day, it's going to come down to the quarterback play. And I think Sam Hartman, just alone for Notre Dame, will be the reason why they win this game. NC State kind of struggled last week with UConn. I think that's going to be tough for them. You going from a team against UConn to now playing the number 10, top 10 team at least in Notre Dame. I just see Notre Dame pretty much handling this one and going on to go to 2-0.
you took the words out of my mouth once again. We gotta stop thinking so. Like Sam Hartman was one of my favorites to win the Heisman. He was phenomenal week one, and he's gonna continue. I think if he stayed at Wake Forest would have had a outside chance at the ACC championship. But no, he's playing for a national championship over at Notre Dame. Shout out Ryan Hicks. Give me Notre Dame minus 7.5.
Remember, I have Notre Dame in my Final Four, so I actually need Notre Dame to keep winning these
Yeah,
games.
you better take them until they lose. That's what you gotta do at this point.
Hey, listen, I might be tempted to take them against Ohio State, but then again, I might just take Ohio State so I can mush them. That's game's coming up soon. The next game we have, and this could be a sneaky good game for the week. Number 23, Texas A&M going on the road to face the Miami Hurricanes. Current line for this one, Texas A&M is a -4 favorite. Over under is 51.5 points. Andrew, what do you have?
I got Miami +4. I don't think they're going to win the game, but it's going to be sneaky close. I think Texas A&M wins on a field goal. I'm going to say maybe it's something like 29-31 or 29-30, something crazy like that. And Texas A&M wins on a last-minute field goal. So I think they're going to win by 2 or 3 points. I think Miami covers.
Okay. As much as I love the U, they have not been the U for a very long time, and I think Texas A&M is going to be able to. I won't say handle them this game, but I think they do win this one by more than 4 points. I have them winning by a touchdown. I'm going to stick with the current spread though at -4. Grayson is also going to take -4, so that could be good for you, Andrew, for this week with both of us taking Texas A&M -4 to win this game. But I think it could be a really close competitive
It's
game.
going to be a great game. I'm excited about it.
I hope so.
I think it's going to be a close. I think it's going to be a grinded out defense kind of game because Texas A&M kind of went nuts last week on New Mexico.
Right.
So they got to rein back the offense a little bit. I think they'll still score around 27, 28 points, but it's going to be a close one.
Yeah, I think we'll see something. Miami has to get a signature win sooner rather than later. It's been a while since we've talked about them in the rankings in the AP poll, and they really could use a win. And beating Texas A&M in week 2 would certainly help them for future references, so we'll have to see. The next game we have, and this is a game that I think could be the game of the week. And I know that's crazy considering we have the final game that we're going to be covering. But I could see a really good, fun game between number 20 Ole Miss and number 24 Tulane. Ole Miss going on the road to Tulane. They are currently 7-point favorites in this one with the over-under 66.5. A lot of points are expected to be scored in this game. Andrew, what do you have?
I'm riding with the green wave. I love the
I love
underdog.
it.
Give me Tulane money line, not even the points.
Wow, you're going
I want
all
them
the
outright.
wow.
They're going to make a statement that's saying they should kick out Ole Miss and we should be in the SEC instead now. Not really, but
No,
hey, listen,
not really.
listen. They have had some great teams over the last couple of years. Have had great results, not only on the football field, but on the basketball field, basketball court as well. Last year, I think they won 12-2 or something like that. They were really, really good. Uh, Outside chance of a national championship if they didn't lose so early on, or at least making the college football playoffs. Excuse me. They end up beating the absolute living tar out of USC in the Cotton Bowl.
They did.
So they're gonna retain a lot, and I got faith that they're gonna pull off the upset this week.
Now, this one scares me about Ole Miss in this game. You look at their schedule, Andrew, the next couple of weeks. Next week, Georgia Tech. Then look at the next two games after that. At Alabama, and then home against LSU. Those games are certainly going to be looming for the Rebels in the next couple of weeks. Now, I am not going to take the Tulane to win this game money line. I'm not confident to do that, but I do think they keep it close. I think they will cover at the end of the day. I could see Ole Miss winning in a last second field goal. I could see Tulane winning outright overall. But call me crazy. I'm going to take the over also with the game. I know it's a lot of points. And I'm trusting Tulane to keep up with it, but I think they can keep up with this Ole Miss team. I think you look at it, Lane Kiffin has a history of having defenses that haven't been great, and he's had to rely on the offense to score a lot of points. I think you're going to see a lot of points scored in this game overall. Could be another Colorado TCU matchup like we just had in week number 1. And I think, like I said, this could be a candidate to be the game of the week this week, even better than the other top 25 matchup we have in our final game of this week. So that should be a fun one. And then for Grayson, he is going to take Ole Miss money line, and he's going to take the under. So he's not going to be a fun person with this pick. Don't like it. And yes, I just absolutely roasted him for that, but I don't like his pick.
So I think we all have different picks. Is that right?
As of the last couple picks, yes,
Oh,
we started off similar, but now we're starting to get a little bit different.
all right. I like the diversity here.
And let's see if it continues up with this next game. This game could be. I don't know if we're gonna smell an upset. But listen, Appalachian State pulled off an upset last year at Texas A&M. I know that one stings, Andrew, but they've got a chance to maybe do it once again this year. They go on the road into Chapel Hill. They'll take on number 17 UNC. North Carolina currently an 18.5 point favorite with the over-under at 58.5. What do you
Over
have for
under
this?
58.5.
Yep.
That's interesting. I'm gonna take the over in this game because I think both these teams are gonna go nuts. I think they're gonna be slinging the football here. App State was always prone to get a couple upsets throughout the year, and I'm trusting that they're gonna do it again here.
There's a school that knows about getting upsets. It's definitely Appalachian State. They have been unbelievable in their school's history in terms of getting that. I'm trying to think of what week it was because it was very early on last season, right? In which they beat Texas A&M, if I'm not mistaken.
Yes, you are correct.
Was that also week 2?
I think it was week 2. Yes.
It was week 2. You know, I'm not saying there's going to be an upset, but I think Appalachian State will cover in this game. My pick for this is going to be Appalachian State plus 18.5. All I'm saying is it's going to be almost to the exact date of when they beat A&M the year before. I know a lot of people are not going to be happy that I keep talking about that game from last season, but like I said, Appalachian State knows a thing or two about pulling off these upsets, especially on the road. UNC is not going to have an easy time winning this game. I know Drake May is there. He's going to be unbelievable. But I think you could see Appalachian State giving them a run for their money, and I think it will be a little bit closer than the experts say. So give me App State in the points. And Grayson is going to go with North Carolina minus 18.5. So he expects North Carolina to handle their business and go on to 2-0.
All right. We also have all different picks here. So interesting once again. We're not lining up, which is good for
That's
the
good for
viewer.
right, exactly.
All right. So I think we have two more games on our list here.
We do.
I'm going to go into the next one. We have number 13 Oregon versus another disgrace of the Big 12, Texas Tech. Oregon, believe it or not, after killing their mascot last week with push-ups,
What was it, 500 something?
540 something push-ups, the most in the modern era for a mascot. May God help his soul in these trying times. But Oregon, who Texas Tech got embarrassed by last week, we went over this, and Oregon absolutely demolished their opponents. Oregon going on the road, only 6.5 point favorites, over under at 68.5. That is crazy to me.
Yeah.
Well, with that being said,
Go
I'm
ahead.
going to take this first. Oregon's not going to do that, and Texas Tech is going to rebound. So I'm actually going to take the under in this game because I think Oregon's only going to score like
Oh,
30 points.
oh, you're playing dangerous with the under in a Big 12 game, huh?
60, and that's a lot of points. And if Oregon just had that offensive explosion, they got to come back to, they got to regress to the mean.
Now, I have said on multiple occasions, Andrew, that I love chaos. And I know that Oregon Duck is going to be there for this game. I want to see if he can replicate what he did last week. Not only am I going to take Oregon minus 6.5, I'm going to take the over in this one. I expect Oregon to put up, I'd say maybe 45, 50 plus points.
Why are you wishing that on the poor mascot?
Because I want chaos. That's all.
He's going to need new arms by the end of the season.
Hey, listen, Grayson thought Bo Nix thinks Bo Nix can win the Heisman. These first two games can help that cause if that's the case. So, be that as it may, I have the Ducks now only covering, but I got the over. It's a crazy line, but it's a half a point away from my favorite number, so that's why I want the over.
All right, I think Grayson's taking minus 13.5 if I'm not mistaken.
He is.
Oregon minus 13.5. He's doubling the spread.
He is officially done with Texas Tech after picking them to win the Big 12.
Yep, he's already fading them. Good for you, Grayson.
Yep, so we might have to mark that down as an L already in our sheet.
Well, not yet. Give it till week 4.
I'll give it till week 3.
Sounds good. And what may be the primetime game of the week?
Certainly
we
will
have
be.
the return of a. It was a barn burner last year. It came down to the final possession. The Texas Longhorns, horns down, number 11, going on the road to Bryant-Denny Stadium at the University of Alabama, number 3 in the country. Alabama, 7-point favorites at home, over under slated at 54.5. Nick, your pick.
I've been going back and forth for this game and trying to decide who's going to win. Alabama, I know, has played one game. And this is the thing also. These two teams have played just one game, and we still don't know what exactly they're going to be at the end of the day. Texas looked really sluggish in the first half against Rice last week. Bama had their ups and downs in their game last week as well. But they're going through a quarterback change. I still will take the over for this one. I believe the last time these two teams played before last year's matchup, Alabama absolutely beat down Texas. I could be completely wrong about that. Maybe I'm thinking of USC actually now that I'm thinking about it. So forget that I said that. That's going to be now twice in the show I'm going to say that. But I think at the end of the day, you'll see points scored. You have two teams that are looking to make a statement. We saw a good defensive battle between them last year in a 20-19 win for the Crimson Tide. I think you'll see a little bit more mistakes from both sides of the ball in terms of defense. And I think it will lead to a good old-fashioned slugfest between both of them. So I've got the over. If I had to pick, I'd probably take Alabama to win the game. But with the -7, I'm not confident to take that. And I'm not going to take a money line because the line just would not be good. So let me go with that.
All right. I respect it. Grayson's going Alabama minus 10.5. He thinks they're going to murder Texas.
He does.
I don't know why. I'm taking Texas +7. It was close last year, and it was because of Texas's QB play. If you remember that, they were really banged up, and I thought they had a legit chance of winning. I think they got bailed out. Yeah, I think Alabama got bailed out last year. I think Alabama will win, but it's going to be just as close as last year because the quarterback play. Knocking on wood, he doesn't get injured, and if he does, hey, it's the Arch Manning show.
I think, if I'm not mistaken, I believe there was like I want to say there was a pass interference call or something that led to Alabama getting that field goal. That's why there was a lot of controversy in that game.
Yes, there was.
But you're right. Ewers gets hurt in the game. That really hurt Texas at the end of the day. Obviously now, if Ewers was to get hurt, they have Arch Manning there, and we saw a little bit of him. Didn't really throw that much against Rice. So you still have that as a backup option. I think the only concern about Texas for this game is they lost by 1 last year, but they were home for that game. Now you're going into Bryant-Denny, and we all know it's not easy to win there, especially with Nick Saban as your head coach. I think you'll see a really good game between these two teams. I just gotta see if Ewers has another slow start like he did last week. Do we finally see Arch finally get that opportunity to start? And how big of a primetime situation would it be if he were to do it on the road against Alabama?
I mean, that would be kind of crazy, wouldn't it?
That would be wild. I mean, I really I don't remember. I mean, obviously, the last time we saw Alabama do it with against Georgia when they brought Tua in the national championship, but
Hey, it's crazier things that happen, like you said.
right. So I don't know. I expect this to be a good game. I think overall we have two top 25 matchups, and both have an SEC team in it. I think you'll have good games out of that. But overall, I think week two hopefully we'll live up to the hype of week one. We had an interesting week one, and now we'll go into week two. We did see some changes in the top 25 poll as well from week one. Now new teams are ranked and have an opportunity to make their case for the rest of the season. So we'll have to see if week two overall can be good. But I think we'll overall, going into next week, we'll have a lot to discuss about in terms of what happens in week two, going into week three of the college football season. So it should be a fun one to watch.
Yeah, I mean, week one was absolutely crazy, and I can only imagine what week two brings. Imagine if like Alabama loses and Oregon ends up losing, and all these ranked teams start losing. Chaos is gonna happen pretty soon, but when I don't know.
Well, do I say this is September? Because I know this is March is the thing for college basketball. I know
You could say this is September. Maybe
I
this
know.
is
I know
December.
it's a silent pause. It's not really a good catchphrase for it, but yeah, it is what it is. But yeah, I think we'll have to see how the week unfolds, and we'll see if we have a lot to talk about next week on the show going into week number 3 of the college football season. But that is going to do it for this week's edition of the All Gas No Break Sports Show. Week one is been completely wrapped, and now we move into week number 2 and see if some upsets will be made, if some teams can continue their case to get to the national championship picture, and if we maybe have some movement in the Heisman Trophy procedure once again as we did in week number 1. We'll have to see how all unfolds in week number 2 of this college football season. I am Nicholas Pavona, joined alongside by Andrew Johnson with the All Gas No Break Sports Show. Have a great rest of your weekend.